This is where it needs to be for the engine to be level across the top. I haven't measured for center yet, but that's quite a bit off. You can see this, the silver in there, and I can already tell you that grinding that and elongating that hole in there is going to be the easier way to do it.
Well, welcome to part 2 of our struggle bus series. I think I recorded this video over the course of a couple of days. Yeah, because I did the bump stops on one morning and then started tackling the drivetrain mounts on another day. But looking back on this, it's been a couple of weeks now since I recorded this. There are days that just seem to go like this. Everything's a struggle, everything's a challenge, and the thing fights you all day long. And you know, probably the wise thing would be to just walk away, but at some point you got to get it figured out. And luckily enough, I was able to borrow this mock-up LS1 block and this empty transmission case, which makes things a hell of a lot easier to be able to get it in there and moved around. It's a lot lighter and a lot easier to work with. Here I'm messing with this transmission crossmember, and of course I'm having a problem with it bolting up correctly. The bushings ended up being tighter than I thought they should be, and I'm having to force the bushing bolt in with a pry bar, or trying to get the bushing lined up, and it's not going right. And I really don't know why I was so surprised that everything was a little off, because I had anticipated this happening after I fully welded up the chassis, and that's why I didn't fully weld in the drivetrain mounts. But everything just needed to be adjusted slightly, and that's what I ended up doing.
Well, here it is. It's nearly 3 o'clock and I have been battling. Nothing seems to want to go back together easy. I'm having trouble with the transmission crossmember. I was having trouble with one of the threads in the back of the block. I was having trouble with the dowel pins on the back of the block. This the transmission looks like it's been on at the bottom of a lake for a while, and there's a lot of corrosion on the front of the flange, so I had to clean all that up. Although it's super nice, it's super handy to have an empty case. You can just throw it around. It's really light. So the transmission crossmember is not going in easy. So I think that's going to be fairly simple to cut out and redo, because it's just all tacked together. Now I think what I'm going to do is put the transfer case in and see if I can get it to bolt up. Right now the transmission is sitting down on that other tube that I welded into the belly pan, so I need to shim that up because it shouldn't be that low. It dropped when I took the transmission crossmember out, so I'm going to shim that up and see if I can wrestle this transfer case in and make some decisions about how far off things are and what to do, what to redo, whatever. So here we go. Well, this is where we're at. Just about everything has been a battle. nothing's going back in the way it came out, at least not how I think. So this is off by a little bit. It needs to be raised up and then moved back some. Actually, it needs to be raised up. What I think I'm gonna do is reset the whole drivetrain. I'm gonna leave one of the motor mounts in, and then I'm gonna start cutting out what I already have there and make sure everything's centered up. I don't need to go front to back at all. I just need to make sure it's centered and redo that motor mount right there, because it's off by 1/8 of an inch somehow, some way. I think that little mock-up block kind of screwed me, just because there's a lot of flex in it, or there's not a lot of flex, but there's enough flex there to make a difference. And having this old engine block is a much better setup to do mock-up stuff. So I think, yeah, as much as I hate to do it, I'm gonna just cut out what I have here and make it right, because it's just been battling me and it's not going back together right. It's just gonna be that much more of a battle when I go to put the final together. So anyway, that's what we're gonna do. So I sat and stared at this thing trying to figure out the best way to do this, and stared some more and stared some more and figured some more and stared some more, and then finally I thought, you know, this staring at this thing's not going to get anything done. So I decided, I took a carbide burr, and on a angle grind, or on a carbide burr on a die grinder, and I ground those holes out. I leveled up this engine or block, and then I cut those weld washers and put it where it needs to be, nice and level. So that's done. When I get this all taken apart again, I'll fully weld in those washers, and because I had to egg out that hole a little bit just to get everything to line up, but that'll be plenty strong once I weld it all up. So now I'm going to move on to this transmission. All right, well, this is where we're going to leave it. Been pretty much on the struggle bus all day. I got the transfer case remounted and I guess lined up, since I had to reline up the motor mount. It's basically in the same spot. It just shifted a little bit. The other thing I was a little concerned about is I welded this tube into the belly, and I was worried about that not clearing the transmission pan. I really didn't even think about that when I welded that in, because obviously the engine and transmission weren't in here. But let's see if you can see that. There's about a 1/4 inch of daylight. All right, well, it's a new day, and it is a good morning. I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely on the struggle bus yesterday. I was thinking about it, and I stayed up late last night thinking about it, and woke up early thinking about it, but I was trying to rationalize the fact that I was having so much trouble yesterday, and I don't know why I was surprised that the engine mounts, the motor mounts, whatever, the drivetrain mounts were off. I pretty much suspected they would be, and that's why I didn't weld everything out. And I thought things would move around, but I don't know why yesterday I was so surprised. I was thinking about it last night, trying to rationalize all of it, and I was like, I don't know why I'm so surprised. I was so surprised and reacted the way I did that they were off. I thought they would be, and that's why I didn't weld everything out the first time. So we're welding everything out now, though, and we're moving forward, and that's just the way it goes. This fabrication deal it doesn't always end up perfect. It doesn't always go the way you want. Some days are a lot better than others, and yesterday happened to be one of those days where I was just struggling with everything. But I had a really good day earlier last week, so it just makes those kind of days a lot more rewarding, I guess. You should cherish those days where everything just goes together right. And then last night I was sitting here looking at this thing after I decided to call it a day, and I had it up on the lift, and I went to put my bump stops inside the bump cans here, and to add insult to injury, I couldn't get my bump stops in there because the bump cans deformed, and I don't know why they would have deformed. I didn't have to grind and re-weld and grind and re-weld on them three times because of porosity. So I couldn't get those in there, so I'm gonna have to hone these out. There is what I've noticed, and I didn't notice this before, but there is a little step machined in here at the bottom of the can. And it's probably like 10 thousandths or something like that. And it's tighter right here at the bottom. So note to self, don't weld below that, which is about right here. This is where the step stops, and then it opens up here. Next time you do king bump stop cans like these, keep your welds up here because it's more open in here, and chances are if there's any deformation in the can because of the heat, you'll still be able to get your bump stops in there because you're not deforming that tighter area in the can, if that makes sense. Or just don't be a dumbass like me and get all weld happy and have problems and put all kinds of heat into the damn part. Just weld it slowly, which patience and welding slowly is not something I seem to possess. So anyway, it's a new day. We're positive and we're going to move on. So today I was up all night, or not up all night, but I was up early this morning thinking about how I'm going to do this transmission mount. Today I'm going to get this transmission mount put in there and done. I'm going to pull this motor mount off after I get the transmission down, or transmission mount in. I'm going to pull this motor mount off and weld up those weld washers that I put on it to fix my alignment issue. And then I'm going to slowly gusset in and weld in these motor mount link tubes. And I'm going to go from there. I had big aspirations yesterday. Obviously didn't get very far, and so I'm not even going to verbalize what I want to do after I get this done today, because we'll just see how everything goes. But anyway, here we go.
Soul searching, fall apart, tunnel vision, hiding in the dark. Well, I ain't gonna holler before I really bleed. Salvation or quick fix remedy.
cleaning up where I had the transmission mount tabs welded or tack welded to the chassis, and now just laying things back in there, getting things bolted up, and making sure that I get everything lined up correctly. There are quite a few different ways you could do this, and I opted to just do the bush mount sleeves on both sides with some tabs welded to the belly pan of the subframe of the chassis. And again, I had to cut this out because things just did not line up correctly after I fully welded the chassis, but that's par for the course. And today, or this day, having a much better attitude about it. I think I was pretty down yesterday, and you could probably hear it in my voice, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And I guess if it was easy, everybody would do it. So
Dreaming of Nashville, Tennessee, while the cold here in Sweden.
well, time to clean up the bench, pop these bushings out, and get this Crossmember fully welded up. Everything's just tacked in right now, and I'm just cleaning things up and getting ready to weld everything up.
Family day in, day out, the clock's mocking me, getting old, oh, got the kids deserve so much more than this, gotta get rich. You said I never could, ever could change. I thought I never could, ever could change. They said I never could, ever could change. Damn right, I never would. Leave the light on. Oh. Leave the light on. Oh. Leave the light on. Oh. Just leave the light on. Oh. If I never change.
Okay, now that I've got this cross member, I got the tabs mounted, relocated, I've got to take and add a gusset underneath here. I want to add a gusset that goes underneath here. Actually, it'll be on this side. And then finish welding all this end and these bushing ends, weld those in. I gotta pull these bushings out obviously first. Okay, so I started welding this. I didn't want to put a whole bunch of heat into it because I have problems with warping. But what I want to do is I want to put a little gusset in here. Transmission sits on top of here. I've got this piece of 1.5 inch strap, just flat bar. We'll kind of go in there like that. But what I want to do is I want to add a fish mouth, or like add a half hole here and a half hole there so that I can swing a wrench in there, get to these mount holes. It's pretty tight in there, so I'm going to do that just old school with a hole saw on the drill press. Yeah, it'll be like that, something like that. Then I'll have the half holes right here, and I think that'll be good enough. Something like that. I think it'll work.
Here I'm welding up the transfer case mount. So I've got these tabs relocated where I want them, and I'm just fully welding in the tabs. And that would be the final step to welding up the drivetrain mounts, other than the gussets for the transmission mount tabs.
Okay, we're under the buggy. Transmission cross member done, all welded in. All the welds are done. Cross member gusset you saw me making there is done. It's bolted up. It bolted right in, no problem. I started welding the motor mounts. I've got more to do. And then I also put a gusset here on the top of the transmission cross member mount. So yeah, that's done. That went well. I still have to weld in these tabs for the transfer case mount. When I have to take the transfer case out, obviously, and the bushings. We're making progress. A lot better today. All right, so I've got these tube gussets coming off of the main motor mount tube. I've got the motor mount tube pretty well welded in, except for the bottom here on the chassis side, but the motor mount bushing sleeve is all welded up. Both sides, I've got those gussets coming down right there, and then on the back side here, I was reviewing some of my videos, and I don't have as much room on the back side here because the headers are coming down and this way. So what I'm going to do is do a plate gusset here like this, and I'll probably do one. I don't know if I should do one top and bottom, but I'm going to do one right here and just tack it in, and then when I get the engine in and start mocking up the exhaust, I will finish weld it, so long as it's not in the way. All right, well, we're gonna call it a day. So I got these gusset tubes in, and then I made some plate gussets that go right there, top and bottom. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep those on this side anyways, because the drive line is going to come right through there at bump. And then I looked at the videos, and I'm fairly certain that the headers will clear this tube. I'm not sure if they'll clear that, but from the looks of it, I think the headers will. I won't know until I get the actual engine in here, which I'm gonna have to do at some point. As soon as I can put this thing on its own weight and get rid of this little cart that I've been using, because the cart's not gonna hold the weight of the engine, I can put the engine in as soon as I get the rear bump stops done. So, but yeah, so I've got those same gussets are up there, and then they're down underneath here. Anyway, so yeah, much better day today. Wasn't on the struggle bus like I was yesterday. So we're gonna call it a day. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.